The first thing she noticed was the silence, a heavy, unnatural quiet hanging over the roadside like a held breath, and then the shapes, two massive motorcycles tilted into the snow, engines long dead, and beside them two men frozen so still they looked carved from the storm itself. The elderly woman stopped mid-step, her grocery bag slipping from her numb fingers, because the leather jackets were unmistakable, the skull insignia half buried in ice, and the town had whispered that seeing such men never meant anything good. Yet here they were, helpless in the pale daylight, and something inside her chest broke open before fear could fully take hold. If you believe that kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Margaret Halloway had lived 78 winters in the same quiet mountain town, a place where mornings arrived softly and everyone knew who belonged and who did not. Her days followed a gentle rhythm shaped by age and loss. She woke early, brewed weak tea, wrapped herself in a wool coat that still smelled faintly of cedar, and walked to the small market on Maple Road. Her husband had been gone for 12 years, her children scattered across cities that felt louder and farther away with each passing season, and the town itself had grown cautious and closed, especially toward outsiders. Margaret had learned to move carefully through the world, conserving warmth, conserving hope, and never expecting surprises. That morning had begun like any other, bright with winter sun reflecting off snowbanks and turning the street into a ribbon of light. The air was cold but clear, the kind that stung the lungs and made every breath feel earned. She had chosen the longer road home, the one that curved past the old quarry and the line of pines, because it was quiet and allowed her thoughts to wander. She was thinking of nothing in particular when the dark shapes ahead disrupted the familiar landscape. At first, she assumed it was debris or abandoned machines, but as she drew closer, she saw boots stiff with ice, gloved hands pale and unmoving, faces rimmed with frost beneath helmets pushed back. Fear arrived late, trailing behind a wave of concern so strong it surprised her. She knew the stories everyone else knew. The Hells Angels riders who thundered through neighboring counties in summer, the warnings about trouble and violence, the way shop owners locked their doors when unfamiliar motorcycles appeared. Margaret had believed those stories because they were easy to believe, because they made the world feel simpler and safer. But standing there in the bright daylight, looking at two men clearly losing a battle against the cold, she saw something else entirely. She saw human fragility, the universal helplessness of bodies failing in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her knees trembled as she bent down, the snow soaking through her gloves. One man was older than she expected, his beard crusted with ice, his breathing shallow but present. The other looked younger, his lips tinged blue, his eyes fluttering faintly. The cold had crept into their bones, slowing them, stealing time. Margaret's mind raced with obstacles. She was small, old, and alone. Her phone was at home. The nearest house was nearly half a mile away. The town would not welcome these men, and helping them might bring trouble to her doorstep. Every sensible thought told her to turn around, to walk back and let someone else handle it. Instead, she did what she had done all her life when faced with suffering. She acted. Margaret shrugged off her coat and draped it over the younger man, tucking it tight as if he were a child asleep on a couch. She rubbed his hands gently, ignoring the ache in her own fingers, trying to coax warmth back into them. She then turned to the older rider, checking his pulse, steady but weak, and covered him with her scarf. The sun was up, the day was clear, and help could come if she could just keep them alive long enough. Her heart pounded as she struggled to her feet and began the slow, painful walk toward the nearest farmhouse, her boots slipping, her breath coming in sharp bursts. By the time she reached the door and pounded on it with all the strength she had left, her vision was swimming. The farmer who answered stared at her in disbelief as she gasped out what she had found. The reaction was immediate and conflicted. Emergency services were called, but word traveled faster than the sirens. By the time the ambulance arrived, a handful of townspeople had gathered near the road, keeping their distance, whispering fears and judgments. They watched as paramedics worked quickly, lifting the riders onto stretchers, covering them with thermal blankets, loading them into the ambulance. Margaret stood off to the side, shivering now without her coat, her face pale but resolute. The town buzzed with tension for the rest of the day. Stories grew sharper as they were retold. Some said the riders deserved whatever fate they nearly met. Others questioned why an old woman would risk herself for men who carried